Welcome to Rebecca Sounds Reveille. I am delighted to bring back a guest who just wowed the audience and is going to do it again. Anthony Anthem Williams. He is a dreamer, a poet, a rapper. He hosted the Delivery Brothers podcast, which just took off. And now he's doing something even more incredible. He just dropped a song that his single he's going to tell us a little bit about Thinking of the Top. With us today and help me welcome back Anthony Anthem Williams. I am delighted to have you.
So thank you for having me. So
Oh,
it's been a long time.
it's been a long time, but I got to tell you, every time that we talk, it seems like yesterday. And you
Indeed.
always have really very profound things that you share in our conversations and when you are doing things with others, and I am just really excited. We got to catch up a little bit. So for the audience who has seen some of the other episodes with you and when you were hosting Delivery Brothers, tell me how you went from Delivery Brothers to what you're doing now.
So after some time, I had to do some transition periods. A lot of it was just personal things. There were some health issues. There were some other just life things going on. I mean, that's what happens in life. You go through obstacles. I mean,
So
me, and to be quite honest though, adversity is nothing new to me. I mean, I've dealt with it my whole life. So you know, getting through some of the things I went through, um, I got really sick for a little bit, and the pandemic happened. There was a lot of things that I needed to reflect on, like what I wanted to do going forward. And I'd always held myself back when it came to doing music, and never really gave it a fair shot. I would write, and I was always writing. I was writing pretty much every day for a very long time, and I realized that why am I not giving myself a real chance here? I got family members who are doing music as well, but it's just like, why haven't I really applied myself to, you know, make something myself? I'm always, wanting to jump on somebody's track, or I'm seeing everybody else kind of doing what they're doing, or at least having some ambition. And I wasn't giving myself a full chance to have that ambition myself. So that's why I started making music. I need to give myself a real chance here. I'm like, even if I don't become famous, I'm not really worried about that. It's the fact that I created something. You know,
yeah,
Anybody can make music, but I want it to mean something. 'Cause at the end of the day, regardless if I get any fame off of this or any recognition, it's there.
it is there.
It'll be, it'll be there for the rest of my life. It'll be there for time to come when I'm gone.
I love
That's
that.
yeah,
I love that. And we go back so many years. And I
man.
will tell this to you over and over again. When I heard your voice and you sang happy birthday to me, I was so moved, touched. It has never left my psyche. It is something I think of all the time. And I knew at that time, and I think I even mentioned to you right afterwards, you need to be singing because it was so good and so powerful and it was so captivating. And then I started hearing and seeing what you were doing in some other arenas. And I just went, this is fantastic. This is absolutely awesome. What is just the biggest question, probably for me and audience members, when did you say, yes, I feel like now is the time. I know that I'm good and I've got to get my voice out there, my creativity out there so that I can make those impressions and have those things. It's never been for you about what am I going to get out of this? Oh, I want to get this. It is always been the things that you can do to help other people, which is another one of the things that we share.
I mean, to be quite honest, it took a lot of self reflection, I went to therapy because mental health is mental wealth, and
Yes.
that's always been important to me. So, you know, I think that pandemic, and this is going back, I mean, I think that was the time for everybody to take a hard look at themselves, the relationships with themselves and other people. I had to do the same thing, just like everybody else did in that time. We couldn't go nowhere, so there you
True.
were with yourself. Maybe if you had somebody, you were there with them too. So in this case, it was just me.
I
So
Me too.
yeah, so
Me
you
too.
understand, you know what I'm saying?
I
Like,
do. I do. I mean, you're sitting a lot of people are like, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm not around other people. A lot of people didn't look at mental health as mental wealth. They kind of went in a different direction, and you've seen a lot of situations that have happened to people based on that. And one of the biggest things that I have found and learned over time is that if you're content with yourself, everything everything around you is just so incredible. I don't even know if there's any words for me to fully describe how much better life is, because if you're in a good place mentally and you're content with doing things that help build you up, and you're content in your own presence, sometimes it's like both the situations that you and I have had that put us in that, where we had to, wake up and be alone. We're not around other people anymore. We're not on a job anymore, or whatever the case may be. And I think you've said it best, is the mental wealth part of it exceeds any monetary or tangible item that we could ever get. So this is big. And the
oh, yeah.
fact that you took that time to build yourself up, learn more about you, and say, you know what? There's some things that I can do here. And everything that all of these people have been telling me for a long time, yeah, they're right. And I've got this.
Growing up, it was almost taboo in, families, especially black families, like going to counseling or going to a therapist. I mean, a lot of people. I grew up with a lot of people who were from them days. They didn't talk about what they felt. Like I grew up with a World War II vet, and he never talked about the war at
Mhm.
all. And I know he had some trauma, and
Sure.
that's what I'm saying. Like, it's okay to talk about your mental health. It's okay to need help
Yes.
because it. And you could probably attest to this too because you probably know people like that as well who have never really talked about what's going on with them. And it's a stigma that we're doing better about. I had to say it was okay for me to do it.
I love it. I love that you did. I love that you talk about it and that you're confident in sharing some of the topics related and in surrounding this. I'm really just surrounding this so that that awareness and stigma can go away. I come from a background where you didn't share that. I mean, when I was growing up, you kind of had a kind of suck it up.
Throw some dirt on it.
You know what? Yeah, throw some dirt on it, get out there, go do it again. Just go. Stop your crying. I'll give you something to cry about. You kind of just sucked it up. And then going into the military and having being prior law enforcement, you don't share things that are, I mean, like, that is, you just don't do it. And now there are programs that are available, and there's a lot of different agencies and organizations that are coming on board to help people in fields that, especially that are professions that would never share it. In trauma oriented professions, it might be EMT or fire department or the hospital, whatever the case may be.
Because they need it for sure.
Yes, and but there's also cultures too
Mhm.
that, like you said, you come from an area that you don't talk about these things. And then you have generations. And so all of those things, if you, I mean, like, if you pile that on, that's a lot of stress for a lot of people that are not sharing and getting mental wealth from their mental
Generational
health.
traumas.
Yes.
It's generational trauma. It's like this can go all the way. We can get into a historical situation about that, but like it all lies with generational trauma and people not taking care of it or never had the option to take care of it.
True.
So now that we're in a newer age where people are more understanding, it's okay. I think, especially during the pandemic, I think that's when a lot of people realize, whoa, I need to go get myself checked out.
I think you have something here because what I'm noticing the trend being now is that there are so many doctors, nurses, professionals in the healthcare industry that got so burned out during that time period, during COVID and after, up until even as we speak now. And it'll be this way basically here forward.
Mm,
And a
it-
lot of healthcare facilities are closing down. Doctors are leaving, they're starting their own practices, or maybe they're going into something else. Nurses have gone into starting their own nanny service and going into business for themselves, or maybe becoming a travel nurse. They're doing things different. And what's happening is telehealth and self care is starting to surface and emerge as the way
mm.
to get your medical or your health care. And so I think you really hit on it early enough on that you know, you're ahead of the curve on this.
Oh yeah, like this is a great age now where people have options and they don't want to physically go to an office. There's a lot of people that are introverted, so they don't want to be around a lot of people in the office, so they can do telecommunications for whether it's their doctor's appointment on a regular physician side or somebody that can do counseling on another side. Like there are other options available. Sometimes, people don't want to admit they need help because they feel ashamed. And it's not anything to be ashamed about. I mean,
That's true.
take it from me, take it from anybody that's been through it. Just I've lost some friends, okay? And, you know, they didn't think they had anybody. You know, I don't
Mhm.
I don't
Mhm.
want to see anybody go through that.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No,
It's like I don't want to see anybody go through all that because I don't want them to feel like they're alone. And because when they think somebody doesn't care, that's when they don't understand there's plenty of people that did care.
let me ask you a question. Because shame surrounds so much of getting help, whether it's for our own mental health, whether it's for relationship issues like domestic violence. Shame really is a really big thing that prevents people from doing things.
Oh yeah.
And let me ask you, I, I'll tell you what my opinion is here in just a second, but let me ask you, do you think it's more shameful not to get help and be stuck in a pattern of unhealthy behavior, unhealthy mental thought, or self talk? Is it would that be a little bit more shameful because of the behaviors that'll extend from that versus going in and taking care of our mental health?
Sometimes, and this is something I'm coming to a conclusion on. Some people don't even know they're doing it in some
Okay,
cases.
that's a good point.
I mean, to be honest, like people will do patterns that they're so used to doing, they don't think it's problematic. They may be a very insecure person and think, oh, that's just me being X, Y, and Z. Or they grew up in a household where that seemed like it was okay to do.
Yep.
So that can go anyway. And people that need help sometimes don't even know they need help.
It's
It's a,
true.
it's a clarity thing. It could be a pride thing too. So I mean, it could go either way in that aspect. So I
That's
don't think it's anything shameful. I think it's more of some people just don't know.
I love that you've said that because for those who are watching, for those who are listening, no matter where you fit in your life, self-reflection is important because it once you do that, you can start thinking about things that you can do to make your life healthier. And when we had the isolation during COVID, or for people who've lost jobs, or whatever the case may be, once we find ourselves alone, it's we're in our own head. We and all of that busyness from other people talking and doing things allows us to reflect. And sometimes we choose not to. We choose to do things like surf the internet or find a series on one of the streaming um, apps to binge on or something like that. And we choose to look in other areas. But I think it's really important that we do self-reflection a lot.
Mm.
And I don't wanna say I would personally say, like, daily, we should be reflecting daily, it helps us with our goals and other things, but listening to what's going on in our head, it is a lot of work. If you
Oh,
really sit down and think about how much emotional toll that can take by going, "Okay, I just said that. Was that really healthy for me to say that to myself or to think that about somebody else?" Or whatever the case may be. Listening to those things, that takes a lot of work, and then saying, "Okay, I need to get out of that frame." Were there any special techniques that you used to shift in from that to a mental wealth viewpoint? Because I really love that term.
I mean, it's not really a technique. It's more of you just gotta do the work. I mean, let's just be honest. That's an everyday thing. You can go to many therapy sessions as you want, but until you actually put in the real work to really make some closure on some things, or to really see where you need to improve at, or forgive yourself for things, or whatever it may be, it's an everyday thing. I mean, this whole thing with mental health, that's for the rest of your life
Yes,
because it's just as important as anything else. It's just as important as you taking care of yourself when you're sick, like on a physical standpoint. Same thing when you're going through a mental health thing. It's every day because, like for instance, if you supply yourself with a bunch of junk food, you're going to end up unhealthy, right?
that's true.
Same thing with your mental health. If you place yourself in a situation where you're taking in a bunch of junk, aka baggage or anything else you want to call it, and you're not taking care of the fact that maybe it's time to exercise some of these demons you got,
That's right. That's
then
right. And invisible injuries.
that's what I'm saying. Like it, I wouldn't even say it's a technique. It's just it's more of just having a conversation about it. It's more of checking in with yourself, checking yourself on a few things too. Like every day isn't perfect, and I've learned from my uncle, my late uncle, and he told me this: you're gonna make mistakes, but they can be beautiful mistakes.
Yes,
That's the honest truth.
it's true. When
So
we make a mistake, there can be growth in the
exactly,
reflection. So
that's the beauty in the mistake.
I love that you're sharing that because it's making me think about how often we would talk to a friend in a loving way and say, "You don't need to have that hanging over your head." That was in the past. And we have a way of helping someone through different situations and encouraging them to move forward. And it, when you were talking about that, it was allowing me to visualize if I were in my head and I were having a conversation with myself on something that I was going through, what would I say to myself if that was my friend, as a friend? And I think we don't do that. I think oftentimes we are our own worst critic and think
Mhm.
about the different things that hang us up and then, you know, kind of badger ourselves over those things instead of talking to ourselves like a friend and encouraging that part of us to say, "It's all right. Get up, dust it off. Let's do these things together and here's some things that we can do." What Just like you were talking to a friend.
It's pride is the number one killer of anybody. Let's just be
I
honest on that one.
Okay, I like that you're saying that because something that I have found recently is that there is a term that seems to be the big buzz. And I'm not saying that there isn't people that have this particular trait or disorder or whatever you want to call it, but the term has taken on just this huge thing, and it's narcissism. And that goes back to ego. And there are some people that do think about I mean, that if you go back into psychology, that you have ego, super ego. There's all these things. So that is something everybody, it's just kind of wired in us. But putting a label on something because it is a term that is relatable to our ego is very, very different from us being prideful and that just being it. So I like that you're bringing that up because the minute someone hears, okay, somebody's prideful or ego, they're off into this big buzzword. And I just want to point out that that is not that is not always the case, and we really need to be
Mm.
careful in these labels when someone's saying something because
It could be a mask.
it can be a mask. And not only that, but if someone hears that label, if I were to say somebody, "Oh, you're this," sometimes that label will stick,
Hmm.
and they'll think, "Oh, I am that," and then they don't start reflecting on things to do to be healthy. They think, "Well, this is what I am, and this is what I've got," and um, So I like what you're talking about pride as being the root of a lot of things. I think that that's an important thing to
Hmm.
share because that separates labels and really talks about the things within ourselves.
People at the end of the day, we sometimes we care so much about an outside opinion so much we get so lost in not understand what really matters, and that's what we think. And I'm saying this as somebody who had to learn that in the recent times. Like you you need to understand that you are the first person you wake up to every morning, the first person you look at in the mirror every morning. You don't have to be perfection. And also, at the end of the day, your opinion is what matters the most.
That's right. That's right.
That's that's the truth. Like I worried so much about other people's opinions for so long that I lost myself. And when you lose yourself, you're pretty much on autopilot.
That's true.
And
That is true.
and there's nothing great about autopilot. It's literally like being the Walking Dead at that
Yeah,
point.
you can't really embrace things, enjoy life, and fully appreciate the things that God has made you to be, the gifts that you have, the talents that you have, especially when we're trying to do things for other people. The one thing I think that's a huge challenge for so many is that we do conform to other people's thoughts and all of these things. And if for some reason there's a difference in some opinion, people walk away. They shut down the person, they disassociate with them, and we forget that when we were kids, we used to all play in the sandbox. We didn't have the barriers then that we do now and that society has placed. Well, if you like the color blue, I or red or whatever, okay, that's not my favorite color, so I'm not going to
Mhm.
talk to you. The thing is being true to us is also allowing people to be true to themselves and us all still having an ability to embrace people as people. And I think that that's so important. And maybe we're just, quite a ways away from that, but the basics of what you're talking about is starting with ourselves. And I think that that is essential. And you've done that and you've created a fantastic new single that you just dropped. Share with me a little bit about that.
This kind of goes back to everything. I like literally the lyrics are basically I used to always think about just how much I'm on the bottom and never thought anything highly about myself or thought higher than what I could be. That's literally what thinking of the top is about. Like focusing on the fact that I can be something better than what I'm thinking, put my mindset in a better place. And this song ain't just for me, it's for people who are like me. Like, you know, I was told I couldn't for so long. or I need to be in the background or whatever it may be. I mean, it is what it
No,
is. That was a long time ago. I don't hold that against any of those parties. But I'm stubborn. So if somebody tells me I can't do something, it makes me want to prove them wrong. Not for them, for me.
I
I've
love
always
that.
been like
And
that.
you're not allowing people, I don't mean to interrupt you. You're not allowing people to put limitations on you.
You know, I was told even in high school that I couldn't do a lot of things by teachers.
Not okay.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, but I proved them wrong. Heck, I was told I couldn't go to Japan, and I got into an exchange student program, and I went.
I
I
love
was
it.
told I couldn't go to Germany. I worked my butt off, but I still went,
I love it.
and that was by one of my German teachers. I think that wasn't going to be anything.
That is just not okay. The people who are supposed to be formulating and educating that we send our children to spend so many hours out of our home and in a school system that's supposed to be helping you learn and grow and be able to become something, anything that you want to be when you grow up. And these limitations by some people who don't see something, or their thinking, I should say, their limitations are placed on the kids that are in their care. And unfortunately, that's really sad, because if they look beyond what's going on right in front of them and realize that that person comes from somewhere, that's the behavior that they're seeing, or the quietness, or whatever the case may be, is based on the experience from where they came from at home, or whatever environment they're currently in. And that is quite limiting for someone, instead of saying, you know what, this child is being quiet because they had some trauma at home, instead of helping them be able to, grow from a situation. And oftentimes you see that this is really unfortunate, because this is one of the programs that gets cut from schools all the time, and that is, you usually see that when it comes to being on the playing field, in the athletic program or a sports program, and they cut that all the time. That's one of the um, funding areas that is just not on the table. And I really think that those limitations being placed on other people based on, whatever they're projecting their own. I really shouldn't go into too much on that right now, because I really want to talk about your single and how important this is going to be to
I
have
get
those who are listening be able to understand the depth of this and apply it to their own life, because that's what you have always done with the things that you do, and
it.
what you have come up with, both physically and mentally, has allowed you to have this profound insight that you share with other people. And it is life changing. And I thank you for that. And I'm really excited for others to be able to be a part of your single and all of the journey that you have coming forward. Because from this, I mean, all of the things that you're doing, it's just pushing you to the top, all the way to the top. And I am
Work
loving
in
it.
progress. It's a work in progress.
I know it. So we're going to
Mhm.
have you back on the show, and we'll be talking about some more things. But if somebody wants to get a copy and drop that single into their player so that they can get inspired and start,
It's going to
thinking
be on
about
all
some of the
streaming services.
all
All
streaming
streaming services.
services.
Yep. Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music. Like you can go down the list. YouTube Music. It's on everything.
I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Tell them the title.
Thinking of the top by yours truly, Anthony Anthem, and Love Drums and Soul is producer on that one. So yes, it's out right now. A couple other singles out there too. A person that I've never known with me and producer Onyx Zero. Go check out the singles. You can find them on any streaming platform. Anthony Anthem. That's how you're gonna find me. Yes, this mug right here. You'll see this face.
I love it. And you're encouraging people to get on board with YouTube, Facebook,
That's correct.
all of the social media, yes, to connect with you.
Yes. Connect with me. You can find me at Anthony Anthem or Anthony Anthem Williams. You'll find me on there. Anthony Anthem 816 on TikTok. So,
I love it. Thank you so much for spending some time with me and the audience today. I always value our conversations. There's so much. We're going to have you back on
okay.
the show here pretty soon again. You'll be making regular appearances and you'll have so much more insight and things that people can use right from the time they start hearing this. And seeing this, they're going to be able to start having light bulbs go off, and they can make changes right now. And that's always been your goal and mine, and I love it. And I just love you, Anthony.
Love you too.
And I want to thank all of you for tuning in to another episode of Rebecca Sounds Reveille. You got to go and get a copy. Got to download this and start. You're gonna love.
Right on iTunes, go download us. You know
Yes,
what? We can use
go
a little bit of
download it.
the downloads. So,
That's right,
please.
because you're gonna feel it, and sometimes we start with, getting the vibe going, but really, after you start doing that and you start hearing a few times, really start taking those lyrics in, take them in. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Anthony, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.